Welcome to the Full Minded with Alyssa Bette podcast, where my mission is to normalize the human experience. I believe there's power in authenticity and building a community immersed in it. I plan on bringing you on an in-depth and transparent journey of my life through solo episodes. I will also be interviewing a range of individuals who are willing to share their unique stories. On this podcast, we will dive into topics such as mental health, heartbreak, loss, change, trauma, self-love, and every other topic that makes up the human experience. While I do my very best to provide you insight and knowledge on these subject matters, this podcast is not a substitute for professional help. I am not a licensed therapist. I am simply a human sharing my experiences with the intent to help people feel less alone. If you are suffering, please consult with a licensed professional. Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode. It's interesting today. I didn't know if I was going to record one because mentally I'm not in a great place. And I've got basically until the end of the day to record it. I don't like to wait until the last minute, but given the week I've had, there's not really any other chance to record until now. If you follow me on social media, you know that I came home for a little bit to take a break from work and unplug with the intention to see all of my people again. I don't speak with my parents for many, many reasons, but my peace is number one. And it's interesting. It was my first time visiting like my hometown without speaking to them, and it's crazy how much havoc they can still wreak without me even speaking to them. It's wild. When you have a dysfunctional family dynamic, it's like poison that seeps into everything. It's honestly unbelievable. And I knew going into it, it was going to be tough. And I always know going home is hard for me because it's just a lot of trauma. And it's wild because even before I'm in the city, my body will react and I will shut down before I'm in the vicinity of them, not even seeing them, just in the vicinity. And I think that's really interesting. So I don't know if I've mentioned this, but since I got back from Bali, I hadn't had any symptoms of anxiety or vertigo, things that I've had my whole life. And I thought that was really interesting because I did do a lot of somatic healing when I was in Bali. And I was like, maybe I'm cured, you know? And then as soon as I came back here, the vertigo, it happened all over again. And it was bad and the anxiety was bad and I could just feel my body shutting down. It's so interesting to me how smart our bodies are and how much trauma they hang on to and they store. You know, trauma anniversaries are a thing, being around people that are not good for you. Like your body knows. That's why I'm a big advocate for listen to your body, because oftentimes your body knows before your mind does. And something really powerful my therapist once said when I was really, really triggered by hanging out with this guy. So weird. We had plans to hang out. I've already hung out with him before. This was a couple years ago. And before the hangout, I started sweating and freaking out. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I booked a therapy appointment on the fly because I was like, what is happening? And she was like, well, it doesn't matter as much as what is happening to you as you canceling the plans. Like you need to listen to your body and then assess it later. Even if you never get to the understanding of why you needed to not go or not be there or not drive down that road or whatever it is, just listen to your body because your body knows best. And I thought that was really powerful. So I was like, I don't really have a lot of energy to jump on and record an episode because of the mental state I'm in just from visiting home, just from visiting a place that holds an immense amount of trauma and seeing other family members, of course, that, you know, are not healed and project. And yeah, it's just a whole messy thing. And to go no contact and to be the black sheep in the family, to be the one responsible for breaking generational trauma is one of the most heartbreaking, lonely, heavy, terrifying, feel like you're crazy things I've ever done, because and it's not for the weak, because your whole family will slander you. Even the ones that may agree with you, there's so much poison involved, emotional poison involved, that drips down the family line when you stand up and you say things that no one has ever addressed to the family before. My family is notorious for sweeping things under the rug. They don't have conversations. They don't ask you how you are. We don't do check-ins. We don't ask any questions with depth. It's just, how about the weather? How about this? How about that? Nobody talks about anything. Everyone talks behind people's backs, of course, right? There's a lot of toxicity in that realm and drama in that realm, but no one will ever address it to your face, which is wild to me. And that's kind of the environment I grew up in. And I'm proud of where I'm at today, where I'm able to be like, let's have a conversation about this. How does that make you feel? How's your mind today? I feel like I've worked so hard to be intentional with the way that I live my life, the relationships I curate, and the time I spend with people, the impact I have on them, the amount of care that I show them. And I feel like each time I go back home, I'm a more healed version of myself. So it's more and more triggering the more healed I am. You would think you'd be able to compartmentalize it, but it's just heartbreaking to see people that you care about, people that you love, kind of stuck in toxicity and under the spell of it. And it's just devastating. And I'm the oldest as well. So I feel like my version of things is different. The life I lived was different. You know, each one of our lives was different. Even if you grew up in a toxic household and all experienced the same childhood, you all have a different POV of it. And yeah, it just causes us to be at different places in our lives, and that's okay. But I can't ever go back for sure. And I made that decision this time. I will never step foot in that city again. And to people that get it, get it. People that don't, that's okay. You don't need to understand everything. You know, we don't need to agree on everything, but we do need to have respect for people's life and their autonomy of it and how they choose to live it. And if you know the pain of having to go no contact with family members, or, you know, moving far, far away, or realizing that you don't want to and you can't go back to the place of where you once lived or were born and raised, I wish I could hug you, because it's a different type of pain that not everybody knows. Like, I've been through some heartbreak in my life, okay? Like, realizing my parents were who they were instead of who I idolized them to be. Heartbreaking. You know, losing the love of my life, going through breakups, all of these things, they're very heartbreaking. Losing people to death, heartbreaking. But this is like, I think this is one of the most excruciating things, because I'm kind of in it alone. And like I said, when you're breaking generational trauma, especially when you're surrounded by people who are unhealed, they'll laugh in your face. They'll call you every name in the book. They'll make sure your name is dragged through the mud. Nobody talks shit about you more than people who don't want you to say something about what they've done to you. I've learned that the hard way. The people that talk shit about you, they're the ones that are hoping you don't say nothing about them. And it's interesting. It's painful. It's almost like, haven't you done enough? But we're going to run my name through the mud as well. This is something that I wouldn't have been able to record a year ago, because I was still kind of under the spell of living this part of my life in secret. From such a young age, I was sworn to secrecy, right? Like, you can't tell anyone that we're beating you. You can't tell anyone what's really happening behind closed doors. Like, I always associated my life with secrets and lies, because it had to be, because I would be beaten if I told anyone. And it took 32 years, not judging myself, just stating the facts. It took 32 years for me to be like, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to tell my story, not out of a vendetta to hurt anyone, but just to shed light on it for others who are going through it, who maybe don't know how to identify that what they're going through is abuse, and to bring them comfort, and also just to be a person that could have saved younger me. I think that's really important. And I feel like I've dedicated my whole life to becoming someone that would have rescued younger me. So I do it for me most importantly, but then I do it for all y'all who have maybe been through some shit as well and need somebody else to articulate it, or just need to feel comfort in knowing that you're not alone. I don't do it to hurt anyone or to get payback. Like, what, you know what I mean? I think a lot of my family believes that I spoke out about it to get attention. You know, a lot of my family believes that I'm lying, which is wild, but unhealed people will say anything but the truth, right? They just can't come to terms with it. And yeah, it's heartbreaking. So I'm no longer in that city where I was born and raised. Thank God. Never will be again. And I'm feeling better. My nervous system is starting to regulate now that I'm in a good space and with people that I love and trust, my chosen family and my people. And the rest of my trip is going to be with those types of people. I won't see any family. I don't really hang out with a lot of family to begin with. So yeah, now that I'm with my chosen people, the trip is getting better. But I forget. It's so interesting. I remember, but I forget the depth of pain I can feel when in environments like that. Because I've curated such a peaceful life for myself in Vancouver, and just, the trips I take, the friendships I have, the relationships I have, they're not chaotic and turmoilic anymore. My whole life was chaos, screaming, yelling, violence, pain, stress, and so much cortisol running through my fucking veins that now it's just peace and silence. And it's wild too, because when you're in that dynamic, until you leave it and you have, healthy relationships with other people, or you have peace, you don't really understand the depth of how chaotic and turmoilic it is. I was like, oh wow, this is wild, but this must be how other people's lives are. And then I met other people and spoke with them about it, and they were like, what the fuck? I was like, oh, word. So now, speaking to family members that I do speak to, and them speaking about their life and sharing their stresses, it's very obvious to me that they've accepted that life is supposed to be painful and it's supposed to be difficult. Life has difficult moments, but it's not supposed to be difficult always. This is someone, speaking for myself, who's come from life was only difficult and it was only painful and it was only stressful, to now once in a while things happen that are stressful, but my perspective has really shifted. One, I've removed everybody in my fucking life that was a snake. Everybody in my life that wouldn't have protected me as, younger me, or wouldn't have my back now. And the bar is really high for people to have access to me. Before, I used to be friends with anyone. I would just be wasted in the bathroom making best friends with everyone. And I thought they cared about me, which is pretty wild to reflect upon. They didn't, because they didn't know me. And now I have the bar set so high for romantic relationships, for friendships, for anyone to get in, because I know my value and I know my worth. And it took me decades to rebuild my peace. I'm not willing to risk it for just anybody. You got to make sure you are worth it to be in my life and to sit at my fucking table, because only I know how hard it was to rebuild that after it was completely destroyed by the people that I loved and should have trusted the most. So access to me is not easy. And it's like that on purpose. I just paused to take a little moment to cry, because it's so interesting. You don't think you're going to grow up and have this awakening about your family and your life and separate yourself from it. Move far away, disconnect, remove people. It's just sad. There's no other way to put it. It's just sad. But I guess I just wanted to record this and keep it real with you guys, because that's the whole mission of the fucking podcast. One, and two, my heart goes out to anyone else who feels this pain, especially if you're the oldest or if you're the person that's breaking generational trauma. It is one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I had a really hard life. So I feel like that says a lot. But just know you're not alone. And I'm so fucking proud of you. And don't stop. Even if every single person in your family thinks you're crazy, don't stop. And don't believe them. You're not crazy for wanting to have depth. You're not crazy for wanting to be transparent. You're not crazy for calling people on their bullshit. You're not crazy for saying the abuse stops with me. And that can be any type of abuse, right? Physical, verbal, sexual, any type of abuse. It ends with me. And just a reminder how powerful it is what you're doing. I seen this really cool chart, basically, like showing generational abuse, like one parent hitting a child, and then it going, and then it going, and then the one person in the middle stops it and just speaks love to their child. And then from there on, like, it changes the whole pattern. Like with you, like that is one of the most powerful things I think you can do in life, especially when it is in you to be abusive. I don't ever want to think that I would abuse anyone or if I had children one day, which I don't think I will, abuse them. But it is, when you have been abused your whole life, it is in your blood. It's in your bloodline. It is in your nature to respond that way. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I don't want to have children anytime soon. I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of healing. I've done a fuck ton of therapy, but that I just don't know if I'm at that place where I would want to even risk yelling at them. I know that you're not supposed to be perfect, and parents slip up. I understand that. I just don't have it in me. And that's okay. And I may change my mind a couple of years down the road, and that's okay too. But for me, it's not for me in the cards right now. I feel like I just started living for myself as well. And that's the other piece of it. For so many years, I lived for my siblings and taking care of them and parenting my parents and parenting my grandparents and, taking that nurturing role on automatically. I feel like it was placed on me, but it was also a lot of me assuming I had to fill that role. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that I really got into this place of, oh, I don't need to be in that role anymore. Like, I'm not responsible for caring for anyone other than myself. And since that realization, I've poured an immense amount of love onto myself, and I've healed, and I've traveled, and I've started a business, and I've started a podcast, and I've done all these things for me. And you just kind of become addicted to like that. Like, I just love me so much, and I want to pour all my energy into me. That's why I'm not dating either. I don't have the energy to do that. I don't have the energy to take care of anybody else, And I think me explaining dating as that tells you everything you need to know about my dating history. And also why I want to remain single for a bit until I get into that place where I realize, okay, it's a partnership and I don't have to take care of anyone. It's like a mutual thing. But for now, I'm just working on me and healing me and, sitting with little Liz and doing things for her, taking her on trips, nurturing her, making sure she's good, making sure she's in safe environments. Even the other day, I was driving with my littlest sister, and this is something new that I've learned to identify with myself, is that when I feel anxiety in my chest, I automatically feel like I need to scream. And I felt that way as long as I can remember. But I never screamed because I was like, that's fucking weird. And screaming is one of my biggest triggers from my PTSD from my childhood, right? So I'm like, absolutely not am I screaming. But I felt it for my entire life. I remember being like, I think I'd be okay if I just fucking screamed right now. Like, it just feels like something stuck in my throat. And I didn't. And before I went to Bali this year, I did scream, not even purposely. Like, I was just like so angry. Everything kept fucking up with technology, and I had seen an energy clearer. I'm like a bit skeptical of everything, but I'm like, let me try this girl out. And she said, you have an immense amount of rage in you, which is why your frequency is affecting like electronics around you. Like, I'm talking, my car wouldn't start, my phone stopped working, my laptop broke down. My air fryer stopped. Like everything I touched fucking broke. And I don't care if you believe in that or not. That's just fucking weird. That's just weird. I don't know another explanation, right? And she was like, you need to release it. You need to scream. And I was like, girl, ain't no way. So one night I came home, I got a new iPhone because I was like, mine isn't working for no reason. I got the new one and it wasn't working. And I was like, what the fuck? And I know that sounds like first world problems, but obviously it's not the iPhone. It's everything leading up to it. And that was like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. And I screamed and I terrified myself. I did not like the scream. I did not feel relief. I actually felt fear after I screamed. I was like, well, I won't be doing that anytime soon again. And I remember I just broke down and I was like shaking, like just totally scared myself of what was in me. Like, I'm like, what is that, you know? So that was not fun. And then I went to Bali a couple weeks later and I felt like I needed to scream still and I kept suppressing it and I wouldn't. And then one night I was at dinner with these two girls that I had met and it was interesting because one of the girls was talking about somatic therapy and I had never heard about it and I didn't know about it at the time. But she said somatic therapy and as soon as she said it, my heart rate increased and I started getting really lightheaded and dizzy. And I was like, trying to play it off, had a sip of water. And then I was like, I need to get some fresh air. Like, I don't feel okay for some reason, but you guys keep on keeping on. I'm just going to step outside for a minute. I step outside and usually I can regulate myself pretty quickly. If it's vertigo, I'll just get the spins for a bit and then, you know, drink some cold water and it'll be better. Usually the vertigo comes hand in hand with anxiety because vertigo makes me anxious because I'm like, what if it never ends? I have all these dooming thoughts. And yeah, so I am out front and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And then all of a sudden I can't feel my hands. And I'm like, holy fuck, I've been drugged. That's like literally what I went to. I have been drugged before and it feels similar. You lose your motor skills and it's terrifying. So they come out because they see me like pacing. They're like, what's going on? I'm like, I think I've been drugged. Like, I can't feel my arms. I can't breathe. I'm like, my throat is closing in. I'm like, holy shit. So they bring me around the corner and they sit me down. My head's in between my knees. They bring me water, ice, everything. And I remember just like grabbing the ice and putting it on my vagus nerve, which is in between your chest. And it's one of the things we learned to regulate ourselves. So it'll freeze your vagus nerve or help freeze it and reduce your anxiety. So I'm like, fucking this ice in between my boobs on my chest as hard as I can. My skin's like burning. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And then it hit me that I wasn't drugged. I'm like, this is trapped emotion in my body as fuck. So I was crying so hard you would have thought someone died. Like I was just like heaving. And then they were like, you need to scream. I was like, I can't. They're like, we're going to bring you down to the ocean and we're going to scream. We'll scream with you. So the ocean was nearby. Of course, we're on an island. We walked down there and I was like, what if the police come? And they're like, there's no police in Bali. No one's going to come, which was like comforting, but also kind of scary. So we went down to the water and it took a while. It took them to like a lot of convincing. And they're like, we're going to do it with you. And I had to start slow, like, and then got louder and louder. And I just fucking let it out and was shaking, like full body shaking. Like when I tell you decades of trauma was seeping out of my body, I am not kidding you. This lasted for about 2 hours. 2 the fuck hours. I was like, what the fuck? I had never had anything like this happen before. Or maybe I did, but not to this extent. And I didn't know what it was. But not something like this. And I feel so grateful that I was with those 2 girls. I trusted them and they knew exactly what to do. That's one good thing about Bali. I will say one of the many is that a lot of people go there to heal. They know what's going on. They know what to expect. Like depth is normal there. Where I feel like oftentimes, sometimes it's not here. Like you're just like, how about the weather? How about this? I'm just like, God damn it. Someone talk about something of importance and substance. Small talk triggers the shit out of me. Anyway, so it was beautiful that they knew exactly what to do with me and they were willing to do it, you know, by my side. And then after I regulated and drank water and I was like, should we get ice cream and go to the club? And they were like, yeah, for sure. So we did that. And I danced the night away. It was amazing. Clubbing for me, especially sober, has been very powerful. It's been very good for my confidence. It's been very good for just releasing emotion. Like movement is so powerful for releasing stagnant emotion in the body. So for me, dancing and clubbing and listening to my favorite style of music with the lights, like that is so much fun for me. And it's been very therapeutic for me. And I spent a lot of my time in Bali doing that, dancing and having so much fun. And then I found even when I was stressed or something that would happen would trigger my anxiety, I would dance even when I wasn't at the club, like in my own space, put on my headphones and just get into the groove of it. It felt more natural the more I did it. So that was really cool. This is coming from someone who couldn't even like compliment myself years ago because I was like, that is so self-centered. And now I'm just like, bitch, you're everything and more. Dance, let's go. Like you know what I mean? Now I hype myself more than anyone could ever hype me because I love me more than anyone ever could. And that's amazing. But yeah, it was interesting because then I looked into somatic healing because she was like, did I say something that triggered you? What happened? I'm like, the last thing you said was the type of therapy you received. And she's like, oh, somatic. And then I was talking to my friend who's into all of that. And she's like, what you had was a somatic release. So that's wild that your body just kind of heard that and was like, now's the time. Now's the time. It's going to seep out of us all these emotions we've been storing. So all that to say that when I was driving the other day with my little sister, I felt the feeling as we were going to the town I'm from. I felt it come up in my throat. And I was like, okay, I have this decision to make. Do I say, let me scream real quick? Or do I suppress it like I have for years? And I looked at her and I was like, I feel like I need to release emotion and scream. Would you like to do it with me? And she was like, I was like, come on, I'll do it with you. We'll start quiet and we'll go loud. I said, have you ever screamed? She was like, never. And I was like, I think it could be good for you. So I like held her hand. We rolled down the window and both screamed at the top of our lungs. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful ode to me and younger me of all those fucking times I was taught to suppress my emotions, but did it myself, kept reinstilling that. No, we feel this way, but we ain't gonna listen. We feel like we need to do this, but we ain't gonna listen because that sounds crazy or I might be embarrassed. Who fucking cares? You know what's embarrassing is having trapped emotion in your body and then it turns into physical illness. That's not cool. Releasing your emotion when you feel you need to is fucking powerful, no matter where you are. And then my anxiety was still around even after I screamed. So I said, do you mind if we pull over and I sit on the grass for a bit? So I took off, she was like, of course. I took off my shoes and I stood on the grass, grounded myself, and then just laid in the grass for a bit. And that is so powerful and such a cool opportunity for her to see that as well and just be like, okay, so it's like normal to feel these things. And it's also normal to be like, I need space to cope with it and I need to release it in whatever form you need to. And I think that was really cool. That was really special for us. Oh my God. So many emotions, so many tears, but I honestly think this is too powerful of a topic to not speak on and not share with you guys. I did promise you that in the heat of things, I'm going to keep it real. And that's exactly what I did today. Honestly, if you guys are going through this or if you have any questions about it, please feel free to DM me or email me, and ask me. I could honestly do an episode coming up soon of questions that you guys have for me. So if you want to submit them, feel free. It's been a minute since I've done a You Asked, I Answered episode. So if you have any questions relating to this or any other episode that I've done that you want to ask or you want to hear me discuss on a future episode, please drop them. And just know I'm so fucking proud of you if this is something that you're going through. And even if it's not something you're going through, I think it's a really important thing to be educated on and just respecting people's decision to go no contact with family, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Even if you have a good relationship with your family, that's not always the case. And it's really no one's responsibility or job to tell you who you should and should not be in contact with. It is your own job to figure out who is good for your nervous system and who is not, and to honor that no matter what anybody else says. I feel like that's the biggest act of self-love, is doing what you need to do for you, despite how it looks to others and despite the opinions of others. Do what's best for you. Okay, I love you guys. And thank you so much for coming on this crazy journey with me. Oh, beautiful. Life is beautiful. It's a blessing. But yes, there are moments where it is like, holy fuck. But I will say, the more you love yourself and the more you heal yourself and the more you prioritize your peace, life does get better and it does get easier. I promise. Okay, until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, and I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I loved having you. If you wish to support this podcast, please follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on social media at Full Minded Podcast. Please visit our website at www.fullmindedpodcast.com to submit all your questions. If you wish to be a guest on this podcast, please fill out the form on our website to apply. Your continued support means the world, so thank you again for taking the time out of your day to tune into Full Minded with Alyssa Bette. Until next time, be kind to yourselves and remember that there is power in owning our imperfect and messy lives. It's all a part of the human experience, and you're not alone in it.